this section, we will discuss what is important to avoid when a medication for ADHD is prescribed. I will highlight 4 points. First, it is important to properly titrate the dose of the medication. Some prescribers or patients are quick in thinking that the medication is not working, but it turns out that the dose used is not high enough. It is important to bear in mind that in some patients, the response happens at low doses. In others, it happens at high doses. Unfortunately, we don't have any solid, reliable predictor to understand which patient needs high doses. So it's advisable to try different doses and keep increasing the dose until the dose is well tolerated. Indeed, you can see here a graph from a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials of stimulants, summarizing data from nearly 8,000 children and adolescents. The figure shows that the more one increases the dose up to the maximum recommended, for instance, for methylphenidate 60 mg per day, the higher is the effect of the medication in reducing the symptoms of ADHD. The interesting question is whether one should use doses beyond those recommended in clinical guidelines. There is no solid evidence to support this practice. Doses beyond those recommended in guidelines should not be used routinely, but could be considered in selected cases, particularly in patients with overweight or obesity, when a partial response was obtained at the licensed dose and the medication is well tolerated. Importantly, if doses beyond those recommended are used, a careful monitoring of blood pressure, heart rate, height, and weight should be implemented. It is important not only to make sure to use the appropriate dose, but also to provide an appropriate coverage. For instance, parents may state that the medication is not working, but they may actually refer to the second or last part of the day, when the effect of an immediate release formulation or of a formulation which effects last around 8 hours may not be visible any longer. So in this case, a top-up dose of an immediate release formulation or a more prolonged release formulation should be considered. Third, conversely, it is also fundamental to avoid splitting too much the dose over the day due to anxiety around possible side effects, as this may lead the patients to receive doses under the therapeutic range and then ineffective. Fourth, finally, in some countries, so-called generic preparations are available. These are claimed to have the same effects of the more traditional formulation based on studies of so-called bioequivalence. However, these studies have some limitations, and importantly, there are few or no published studies comparing directly the effects of the generic and traditional formulation. Therefore, it will be misleading to conclude that a particular type of medication is not working based only on the effect of its generic formulation. Indeed, some parents report that while the traditional formulation used to work well, the generic one did not. So we really need more published studies on the evidence on the generic formulations. So to summarize, make sure you use the correct dose, the correct formulation, and you provide a proper coverage as needed during the day.